think we're a 4. I think it's 4 out of 4, so I guess that's pretty good. Okay. Well, if you've been to our luncheons in the past, you know that we usually have some really cool speakers that talk about some really cool topics. But today you got me and you got Dan. We're going to talk about some of the cool stuff that we are doing at the Conservation Foundation. We do this every 2 or 3 years just to give you a nice overview of the kind of work we're doing, give you a little inside peek into some of our operations. If you've ever been to an organizational's annual meeting, this is sort of like that. So we've received positive feedback on this in the past, so we think every 2 or 3 years we'll just do this kind of presentation. So this is really just sort of an update and the state of the Conservation Foundation. Just because I know there are a lot of new people in the room here, we're going to start with some basics here. Our mission is to preserve and restore natural areas and open space, protect our rivers and watersheds, and promote stewardship of the environment. We have 4 major program areas: protecting land, protecting and cleaning up our rivers and streams, community education and outreach, and then our Conservation at Home program, which is becoming one of our go-to programs in terms of engaging people. We've been around since 1972. We'll be celebrating our 45th anniversary next year in 2017. Just a little snapshot here. We have about 20 employees, about split half and half between full-time and part-time, and then a few seasonals. As Chris mentioned, we're a private not-for-profit. We're a 501c3 charitable organization. We have 2 offices. Our headquarters are at the McDonald Farm, which this is a picture of, in Naperville, which is a pretty cool place to go to work every day. And also we have a sort of a smaller version of this in Montgomery called the Dixon Merce Farm. So 2 offices. Our primary territory that we work, we call these our 4 core counties: DuPage, Kane, Kendall, and Will. Those are our 4 core counties, but we also do a lot of work in LaSalle, Grundy, and in DeKalb County. And frankly, we actually do work really throughout northeastern Illinois because we partner with a lot of other organizations working in counties outside of the counties that we take the primary lead in. Our MO, so to speak, is to partner with local units of government. We want to help forest preserves preserve more land. We want to help park districts preserve more land. We want to partner with municipalities and get more conservation initiatives down in the communities. So we do a lot of partnering with local units of government. And so that's really been our operating model for the past 44 years, and I think it's been fairly successful. Chris also mentioned that we've helped preserve about 33,000 acres of land over the last 44 years. This map shows the distribution of that land. You see a lot of dots on the map, well over 140 different properties throughout our service territory. So again, most of these are in public ownership right now, either with various forest preserves or park districts, because we like to help them preserve more land. We've all been associated with maybe a team, an athletic team, an organization, and we learned that successful organizations have certain things in common. And one of them is making sure that you have the right people at the table. And so I want to start off talking a little bit about the people of the Conservation Foundation from our very beginning. Some of you may recognize this gentleman, Chuck Johnson. He was the executive director of the DuPage County Forest Preserve District for 32 years. I had the honor of working for him for a couple of years before he retired in the early to mid-90s. Chuck passed away about a month ago. He's been in retirement in Colorado. And 2 things I want you to remember about Chuck. The next time you walk into a DuPage County Forest Preserve, I want you to think of Chuck, because you could probably thank him for that forest preserve being there. It was he that brought the vision in the 1960s about creating an interconnected greenway network of forest preserves and other public open spaces along our rivers and streams in DuPage County. And he was using the word greenway before anyone even knew what that was. So Chuck has been a mentor to a lot of people and has had a lot of influence on our open space system in DuPage County. The second thing is, a lot of people don't know this, is that it was his idea to create the Conservation Foundation. He was the one that went to Brooks McCormick and said, hey, we need to have, this is back in 1971, We need to have a not-for-profit friends group to help us preserve land, because we know what's coming our way. And he was exactly right. It hit in the 70s and 80s and the 90s. So getting that open space set aside ahead of time was very visionary on his part. So I just wanted to make sure we honored Chuck today with a shout out. Speaking of Brooks McCormick, he was one of our founders. We're very fortunate to be standing today on the shoulders of giants. Brooks McCormick, Bill Rutherford, Paul Butler, Bill Green, Carlton Nadelhofer. These were big DuPage County names in the business community and in the conservation community. And I'm told that we have a special guest here today, Ted Utchen. Ted, where are you at? Ted? Ted? Ted was Mr. McCormick's attorney for the Family Foundation for many years. He helped Mr. McCormick create the conservation easement and then ultimately all the paperwork to sell at a bargain sale St. James Farm to the Forest Preserve District back about 10 or 15 years ago. So we wanted to thank you and honor you today for being here. Maybe, oh, okay, well, he should be over the other way a little bit. If you can see, this is Doug Maines, Dr. Doug Maines. Many of you remember Doug Maines. Doug was also, he was not a founder of the organizations, but Doug Maines was handpicked by Brooks McCormick back in the mid-'80s to take his place as chairman of our board of trustees. And Doug was just a wonderful man, passed away a few years ago, and a good mentor to a lot of people. So again, we've been very lucky from the very beginning to have the right people around the table. And we also have been lucky to have many other board members throughout the years. Some of you are here. These past trustees have provided guidance and leadership and really good sound governance over the years, and we appreciate their service. We also have several trustees that are here today with us that have been on the board for a long time. Bob Hutchinson. Bob, you've been on for 20 plus years? 22 years. And we appreciate that. Julie's here today. Chris, our board chair, of course. June's not with us today, but she's from Kane County. Karen's not with us. And Tom, our treasurer, is here. So we've been very lucky to make sure that we've had the right people around the table for a long, long time. And of course, the day-to-day work gets done by the highly dedicated and professional staff of the Conservation Foundation. We have accumulated, just from working at the Conservation Foundation only, this doesn't include previous careers, the people that currently are with us on staff have more than 150 years with the Conservation Foundation combined. And that experience and that dedication is one of the reasons why we feel we're a successful organization, because you have to have the right people around the table at every different level. And this is our Christmas picture. And we can't forget our donors and our members, because you're part of our team too. We would not be able to do anything without the support of our members and donors. So our members, our donors, our volunteers are all very important people as part of our team and as part of those that are sitting around the table helping to ensure our success. So we thank you so much for that. We wouldn't be able to do the work if we didn't have friends and partners like yourself. Another characteristic of successful organizations is that you have to have a plan. And at the Conservation Foundation, we have a plan. In fact, we've never not had a plan. We take strategic planning seriously. In fact, we give our strategic plans names. And our strategic plan that we are currently finishing up right now, making a difference, affecting positive change, and having a deeper impact. And by that, what we mean is that we want to go deeper into the communities that we serve, partnering with local units of government and the residents that live there to have much of a deeper, more meaningful impact in those communities. So this is a 5-year plan. It has a whole lot of detail in it. We're finishing up year 4 of this 5-year plan right now. Our fiscal year is July 1 through June 30. So we're finishing up year 4 right now, which is fiscal year 15 and 16. This plan has 4 major goals, 4 major initiatives in it. One is to expand our financial resources, which every not-for-profit is always seeking to do. Increase awareness and expand our base of support. Again, all not-for-profits are trying to do that. but also train and develop our staff and our trustees to make sure that they're equipped with the skills to be effective and impactful in our communities. And this last one really is what we're all about programmatically, and that's tailoring our programs based on the needs of each county and each community that we work in. So community conservation or community-based conservation is really what we're all about. We've always sort of been about this. We never really called it community conservation, but this is essentially what the Conservation Foundation is all about, trying to work in communities to have a much deeper impact. So community conservation is local. And by local, I mean at the community level, so the town you live in. By local, I mean it could even be your neighborhood, like the subdivision that you work in. We work with a lot of homeowners association. And by local, I even mean out your front doorstep. Our Conservation at Home program is a great example. You can't get any more local than walking out your front door and being exposed to conservation. So it's local. Community conservation also has to be meaningful. It has to be impactful. It has to be relevant to people's lives, and we like for there to always be an educational component to it. Community conservation engages people at the local level and creates community partnerships, whether it's connecting people to people, whether it's connecting organizations to businesses and vice versa, or it's connecting people to their local units of government. Community conservation always addresses a community need. This isn't us going to a community and saying, hey, we think you should do A, B, and C. That probably wouldn't go over very well, and ultimately would not be successful. But community conservation starts with listening and asking the question, what kind of conservation and environmental goals do you have as a community, and how can we help you and bring our resources and our expertise to help your community be more conservation minded? So that is a very important aspect of this. And it's always good when it's fun and positive and creates enthusiasm and community pride. And finally, community conservation should touch the social, the economic, and the environmental fabric of every community. And that is the definition of sustainability. Another characteristic that successful organizations all have in common include having financial resources. You have to have the money to pay for all this stuff. Now, we're not a government agency, so we can't rely on a certain income stream to come in every year. We have to raise money like any other not-for-profit. So a lot of people ask us, where does your money come from? And so this pie chart pretty much explains that. About half of the money we get every year comes from people like yourself. And that is in the form of memberships, donations, coming to the farm and participating in an event and then making a donation after that. So this is actually this is a very healthy pie chart, because any not-for-profit wants to make sure that you don't get less than 50% of your total revenues from individual giving. That is where the fundraising must occur in individual giving. We also feel very proud that almost 20% of our income comes from fee-for-service. We have contracts and we have agreements, mostly with local units of government, to perform conservation services, and we get paid for that. And so we're able to augment the donations we receive with the fee-for-service contracts. And also about 15% of our income comes from fundraising events, like many of you come to our Earth Day benefit dinner, or other kind of events where we charge a fee. And so we don't do a lot of fundraising events, but the ones we do are very significant to our overall income source. So I know a lot of government agencies are now doing a not-for-profit or private fundraising to augment their tax revenue. But we start from zero every year on July the 1st. And our annual operating program budget is about $1.6 million, which isn't huge to a lot of organizations, but to us, that's a lot of money. We have to start raising money on July the 1st, and hopefully we end up at about 1.6, because that's what it costs to run the organization and to operate all of our programs. And that does not include money we have to raise in addition to that for special projects or land acquisition. So our revenues each year fluctuate based on what kind of projects and land acquisition activity we have. And this is an interesting chart, and I hope you can see it. There are two lines there. Notice the line that's trending down. That's the grant revenue line. We learned several years ago that the opportunity for grants to help sustain and operate and grow our organization were dwindling. So we, and through our strategic planning process, identified a high priority of shifting our fundraising efforts, not totally away from grants, because we still go after grants and we appreciate those, but really toward individual giving, donations, and increasing our membership. And you can see how that trend line has gone up. So that's the reversal that we made strategically about 8 or 9 years ago for our organization, to make sure that we would still have the financial resources to do what needs to be done in the future. And with your help, we've been pretty successful at that. We've also been trying to grow our membership. These are giving units, but these equate to be about 4,000 members. What's interesting, and here, and Carrie talks about this at our board meeting, that the seasonality of people when they renew their memberships or give us money is pretty much the same every year. As you can see, these three lines are fairly parallel with each other. So looking ahead, what kind of things are we looking to do in the future? Now, Dan's going to come up here in a minute and talk about some of the programs and projects that we're working on. Then we'll have an opportunity for anybody to ask any questions. But we're going to continue to advance our fundraising and our marketing efforts. As a not-for-profit, there's a direct correlation between people knowing you and knowing what you do and feeling that you're relevant to them, and fundraising. It's as simple as that. So not-for-profit organizations always have to have their name out there. We hope we do it appropriately so we're not in people's face. I think as a reasoned voice for conservation, we have that culture in our organization. But we can't be shy about talking about who we are and what we do and some of the good things we do. And I know that we partner with the Forest Preserve Districts and the Park Districts, and you guys do a great job of being our advocates also, and we appreciate that. Sure, we talked about the Meet the Conservation Foundation events. These are fun. These are 60 minutes or less. We don't ask anybody for money. It's just a way to get to know the Conservation Foundation in sort of a fun way by telling stories. So it's one of the things that I enjoy doing the most in my job, is getting out and doing these. In fact, we have one this afternoon up near Elgin that I'm looking forward to. Many of you are involved in our Conservation at Home program. We are expanding that regionally. Just recently, we were able to work with the Cook County Forest Preserve District to take over Conservation at Home in Cook County. We don't work in Cook County. Obviously, they do. So they've adopted the program. So we have Conservation at Home going on in every single county in northeastern Illinois. And that's something that we've been working on for several years, and we finally hit that goal. We're going to continue to support those who work in Conservation at Home in those counties and try to expand it even further. We also want to increase staff capacity. We're going to be hiring some people over the next couple of years because we have things we want to do and things that need to get done relative to our conservation mission. And as long as we can find the financial resources to do that, we're going to continue to expand our staff working throughout the counties in northeastern Illinois. We have this community conservation initiative that I talked about. Dan's going to talk a little bit about what we call conservation in our community, so I'm going to save that for him. But ultimately, wouldn't it be nice if we had a community partnership in every single town and every single county that we worked in? So we had people working on conservation initiatives at the local level in every single town. That, of course, would be a long-term goal, but that is our long-term goal. And finally, we're going to begin to expand and strengthen our efforts in Will County. And we hope to be doing that within the next 6 to 12 months.